we have this concept here that I call them ideal and reality. So when we talk about ideal, let me give you an example. Ideal, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. That is an example of an ideal. But when it comes to Noah after the flood, it becomes reality, because we are facing the reality. Adam and Eve has fallen into sin. Now people have moved out of God's ideal because they have started to do other sinful acts and sinful life, and therefore comes to the flood when God decided to destroy the world. Meat was introduced after the flood. So those died were just temporary, because there were no vegetations, there were no food, there were no plants that were bearing fruits, and vegetation was very less, and because it was still germinating and still reproducing. God gave them the secondary diet, which was the meat, and also behind it, or beside it, they were given meat, and it was another way of shortening their lives, reducing their age. After the flood, you can see in the Bible, after the flood, the age were reducing from 900, and it goes down and so forth. But God did not stop there. The beautiful thing about it, that God was trying to get things back to ideal, but he did not stop there, and he had strategies. And one of the strategy that he had was to send his prophet. As we know, in biblical time, God sent his prophets. Like one of the kind of prophet that he sends during the biblical time was classical prophets, to warn the people of the looming destructions. And another type of prophets were apocalyptic prophets, and God sent these particular prophets to provide hope and contentment in times of persecution and crisis. And if you look at the New Testament time, in the book of Ephesians 4 verse 11, it says that Christ himself gave the some to be apostles, some to be prophets, and some to be evangelists and pastors and teachers. So now you see that prophets were still part of the New Testament churches. And the reason why God gave prophet or gifts of prophecies during New Testament, you can see that in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 25. It says that, so that there should be no division in the body, but that each part should have equal concern for each other. So now you see that God is so much concerned of his church. Therefore, he gives prophets, apostles, teachers, and because he has so much concern for his church. In 1844, God gave a 17-year-old girl this particular gift of prophecy. And as most of us know that Ellen White was still 17 when she was given the vision. First vision. People may be wondering why. What was the idea behind those gifts? I mean, the prophetic gifts that God gave Mrs. White. God had three priorities, and let me share with you in brief these priorities. First priority was the formulation of the doctrinal framework in the decades of 1844. This the framework included the Sabbath conferences and so forth. And the second priority was organization of the SDA denomination in the decades of 1850. And then it comes to the third priority. The third priority was the development of the health reform message in the decade of 1860s. And also it was the General Conference, the organization of the General Conference was established in May 21, 1863. So 6 days after the General Conference establishment was her first major health reform vision. It was given on the 6th of June 1863. Now you see that after that she begins to write her books based on health reform. And Mrs. White begins to write many books. If I name some of the books, one of the books is Ministry of Healing. One of the book is Evangelism, Medical Missionary, Education, Counsels on Diets and Foods, Christian Service, Temperance, and many more. Now you see that Mrs. White's work was really well established as a writer, as an author, in the prophetic gift she was given. So her work was also validated by scientific professionals from 1897 to 2023. That is just last year. Renowned scientists, academic scholars, authors, medical professionals, even educational journals, and many others who have validated the writing of Mrs. White in regards to health. And most of these were not just Adventists, but mixtures of non-Adventists and Adventist scientists and scholars who validated that the work and the writing of Mrs. White was excellent, and it was genuine and worth reading and believing. Before I conclude, I would like to take us to one of the current example of validation by the World Health Organization. They confirm by the scientific study about cancer. They confirm that bowel cancer is common for red meat consumers. And you know that Mrs. White have written this so many years ago, that meat is not safe for a healthy diet. And who says that the group 1 carcinogens, carcinogens are the cancer foods. The cancer cells, they feed on carcinogens. And the number 1 carcinogens are found in ham. Ham is like the meat of the leg of pork. And bacon, which is the meat of the stomach of the pork. And salami, which is the beef pork sauce made from beef and pork as a special sauce. And frankfurter It's a sausage made out of pork. So this particular meat, where in high is the highest in group 1 of carcinogens that feed cancer cells. And you know, Ellen White have written these facts in her book. If you read uh, Ministry of Healings, Foods and Diets, and these are some of the books that she has confirmed that pork meat is deadly and must not be consumed by human. So as I end my presentation tonight, it's just a brief presentation. I would like to end with this thought. Health is a subject that has a fundamental truth based on the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. Let me read you a Bible verse before I pray tonight. 2 Chronicles 20 verse 20. It says, "Believe the Lord your God, so shall ye establish. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper." Until our next segment, we will talk about perspective of science, a scientific perspective about health. Until then, may God bless you as we close.